Happy Mother's Day. Lucky for you, we are not a parenting podcast, but we do have advice that has less to do with gentle parenting and more to do with you, sis.
Welcome to Trust Yourself.
Okay, we're all out here trying to raise good humans, while also maybe Googling, is cereal an okay dinner food? Or should I take my son to the ER? It's hard to feel like you have time to raise a good human when you feel like this is all guesswork. So, in today's special Mother's Day episode, we are talking about how we don't need a psychology degree to raise good humans. We just need to start modeling what self-worth and compassion looks like in action for ourselves. So, in other words, always be kind to you and then watch how your girls and boys can shine because of it.
Yes, Izzy. Today is also extra special because we have an amazing guest. Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino is joining us.
Yeah.
Elizabeth is a powerhouse in the movement for emotional and personal growth. Not only is she a 4-time best-selling author, master coach, and founder of Best Ever You Network, she is also a mom of 4 boys who are now men.
Woo.
Yeah. And she's here to share her wisdom on nurturing emotionally secure children who are entering adulthood stronger because of it. So let's get started.
Heck yeah.
Welcome, Elizabeth. We are super, super excited to have you here for us today. Very interesting story about how we kind of met. I was at a women's retreat, and Elizabeth was so kind to do a 1-hour Zoom with us to kind of just help us figure out our purpose, our success, and it felt so good. It was so good, Elizabeth. It really was. And there was a point where you asked everybody what our why was, our big why. And I was so confident and excited. And I was like, my why is to empower women to feel like they're confident in themselves again and give them their power back. And you're like, that's great, but don't forget young men too. And I was like, you're right.
Right.
You're right. But I thought about it and I was like, actually, that totally makes sense because, what we're teaching though, too, is we want to empower women to do this, but also to be role models, like role model for your sons and your daughters on how to love yourself and trust yourself and know your self-worth and know that you can trust yourself. So I knew that you would be a great person to chat with because you have 4 sons.
Yeah, I got to stop and think for a minute. So this year they're going to be 24, 26, 28, and 30.
That's so exciting.
So that makes me about 45. No, so I'm 50. I'll be 56 this year, and my husband will be 66 this year. So we've been having boys a long time in this house, and so and I know you guys are moms of girls and boys.
Yes.
So yeah, I think we've got quite a few kids between us. It's got to be 10, 11, 12 kids between us. So that we get to put on our parenting expert hats now.
Exactly. Yes. Elizabeth, so I just wanted to ask you, what does it really mean to raise emotionally intelligent boys?
Yeah, right. Or people, let's just talk people for a minute. I'm a human being who is like a mom of 4 boys. That's a lot. I'm that person who didn't get invited to play dates because there's 4 kids and things like that.
Oh my God.
But
I
think what matters is with all of our children that we raise them with emotional depth, accountability, and above all, compassion for themselves and for others. I think when we're raising people, we want them to have their self-worth and their self-love intact and know how to access that at a very young age, and it grows with them. So I just think empowering kids to love themselves and to be compassionate to others sets the foundation for a really good human.
Yeah,
I'm curious because you have 4 boys. I'm assuming you couldn't approach each one the same way, that you had to do a little bit of tweaking in your parenting between each one for that teaching of compassion.
We have 4 really different kids, young men. I can't say kids anymore, boys, but they're very different, and they showed very different things as young people too. one looked up at the sky and was watching the stars. We're like, what's that? What, okay, that's our meteorologist now.
Oh, I
One
love
was
it.
super into baseball as a little kid. He would throw things with his left hand. We're like, oh no, put a baseball in it. And he's a left-handed pitcher, a
Yeah.
professional left-handed pitcher who was just in Germany for the past year. We have one who's always been interested in tinkering and biology and physiology and so forth. He's getting his PhD in like biopharmaceutical bio and all that.
Wow.
Yeah, science, whatever. Yeah, I'll get that wrong. So I'm just not even going to attempt to get that right. And then our oldest was like so personable and so the life of the party, the life of the family, kind of thing, just always talking to everybody. And he's a senior buyer at Performance Food Group up in Augusta with a great job and so forth. So they're all very different, and I think that's so important as you're trying to huddle them all together because it's easier as a mom to get them all to eat the same thing or do the same thing for a moment or whatever it is. It's also super important to respect their differences because they're super different people and they will be and then you bring it back together with some common interests and common traditions or whatever it is as a family that you do.
You kind of nailed it. It's like parenting is hard in general, but I feel like the more kids you have, it's harder only because they're all such individual characters. And
Yeah.
so, you can't parent every single child exactly the same. It would be easier if we could, but
Right.
we can't. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious, with all the work that you've done in Best Ever You and just really encompassing what you were talking about, teaching compassion, self-love,
Yeah.
self-care, everything like that. So was this always part of your parenting philosophy? Like even going into parenting, we're like, okay, I'm going to raise these kids to be all about compassion, all about self-love, or did this kind of evolve as you were parenting?
It evolved. It definitely evolved. I think I had to learn some of it even to begin with so that I could teach it. I don't think I was put on the planet like that and had to really learn it. And so when I started Best Ever You back in 2007-ish, 2008-ish, I was learning. And then as we were, even my husband was learning. So as we were learning, we were teaching it. So the refrigerator was always filled with things like hashtag gratitude. And like to this day, if you get the kids in a room, they'll go hashtag gratitude, mom. Like one year we got them joke shirts for Christmas that said hashtag gratitude on them.
Yes.
But it's always been, filled with that kind of thing. And I think gratitude was the main focus until Cam actually said, he was home from college and I said, so what's going on with baseball? What's happening? What's your one word for the year? What do people on Best Ever You need to learn? He used the word compassion. And he said, I think people need to learn compassion. In baseball, it can be very I, and me, instead of we and us, because people are out to try and be seen, be drafted, be this, be that, kind of thing. And we forget the collective we and the compassion that we need to have for one another. And the compassion we need to have for ourselves when we don't do so well or we lose or whatever. And I kind of took that and I'm like, that's kind of profound for an 18-year-old kid to say the
Absolutely.
world needs compassion. And
Yeah.
it just kind of stuck as a fundamental thing on Best Ever You. But I think our children these days have access to these tools. Whereas before, like if you take me younger, there was a stigma about mental health, about self-help, about your emotions. It was more of like a suck it up buttercup type
Oh,
type of situation. And now we talk openly and have these cool conversations and podcasts
yeah.
and things, and people are learning from one another. Like, how'd you do what you did? Well, here's how.
Yeah.
I just think that's so powerful. So kudos to everybody and to you guys for having a podcast like this, because the name of it, I mean, trust yourself. That is really hard to do
Isn't
So
without
it?
hard.
It's
tools.
so simple.
It's so
It's so
simple, but it's
simple.
so complicated
So
if you
Yes.
complicated.
don't know. And I think that has its roots back in the self-love and self-worth and compassion and so forth for yourself and other people.
Um, Talk to me more about how you have kind of helped cultivate belief in themselves, like for your boys and just in general. How do you cultivate believing in themselves for kids?
Yeah. I think again, I'm going to pull us back to that emotional intelligence. I think it it's really important to give people permission to feel and to emote and to heal and so forth. For example, I wanted my kids to know that it was okay to cry.
Yeah.
It's totally okay to cry, and that emotion is a strength, not something to like hide from or apologize for or anything like that. But it's just that instilling that self-awareness and empathy and compassion and so forth. But I think that sometimes we teach or other people have been taught to not cry or to
Yeah.
not do the man up or whatever it is, kind of thing.
Mhm.
They get taught that. So I think those kind of phrases sound sort of harmless, but I think they do, maybe even lifelong damage to people when you've got that. So I think when you disconnect boys or girls for that matter from their emotions early on, it becomes harder for them to connect later on back to them. I think back to this quote Cam said one time ago. I'm sorry, actually it was Quaid, because Quaid was a baseball player who got injured in eighth grade with a bad slide into second base. But he said, I'm going to look down at my notes. So I wrote this down. He wrote, "I don't need to win to be strong. I just need to understand what matters."
Oh,
Yeah.
he said
Ooh,
that in
I got
8th grade.
chills.
In eighth grade, yeah, he said, "I
Holy
don't need to win to be
moly.
strong. I just need to understand what matters." I'm like,
Oh,
wow, because he got taken out of baseball right then. It was a fracture to his arm, and that was going to be the end of his baseball career because it clicked and did all sorts of funny things.
oh, great.
And so then he turned to track and was all state in track. And track was a very interesting sport because in track you're constantly competing against yourselves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have young boys, I'm just curious that we definitely need your advice. What are some specific things that you did when your boys were younger, maybe pre-K, elementary age, just to help them name and process their feelings?
Yeah, I think naming and process, holding that space. I call it space and grace.
I
Holding
love
that
it.
space and giving people grace. And if you can remember that with all of your kids, to just take a step back from whatever's happening and pause and implement space and grace before you react, respond, or whatever, that will help a lot to let your child know that they have space and grace to just be and be themselves and to be what they're feeling and so forth. I think so often you can even see it in the grocery stores with somebody crying,
Yes.
right? Like, shh,
Yep.
be quiet. I'm trying
Oh,
to get
yeah.
this done. Shh, oh my gosh, just stop. I have to, whatever it is. And instead, it's like pause, address the need. There's a reason people cry. There's a
Yeah.
reason people get mad. And it's just little things that you can do to make people young people know that they're emotionally secure and that their feelings are valid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that you say that space and grace and that pause because I do it for myself as much as I can, as best as I can, but I've never taught my kid to do that. And I think that that's important. I know right now, as a 6 and a 4.5-year-old, they just have this like rage that just explodes out of them. They don't have the
Oh, there's no
space and
filter.
grace.
There's no filter. Yeah.
Uh,
No, they
But,
yeah.
hopefully, like me modeling this now can help them transition maybe in a few more years when I can start to kind of tell them to like, you're
Yeah.
having a big feeling and you should feel that feeling, but also
well,
give yourself that space and grace to kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
figure it out.
in our house, when my kids get mad, I just say, you know what? It's okay to be mad, but it's not okay to be mean. And then they're like, but
Bravo.
he hit me first.
Oh, yeah.
Walk away.
So
Yeah.
we're working on it.
Oh, I love that actually. In my coaching with adults, what we do is we take a word and we just explore the heck out of that word each week. So you could do that with kids. You can start the emotional vocabulary young. Say,
Yeah.
this month we're going to learn about anger and everything about it. What a cool 20-year-old that'll be.
Speaking about college and
Yeah.
graduation season is slowly approaching, quickly approaching actually.
Yeah.
Um, Is there anything that you would say that maybe a phrase or attitudes that we should avoid, especially during big milestones like graduation, that could unintentionally send the wrong message about success and self-worth to kids? For
Yeah.
example, like I know for me, it was always like, you must go to college, you must get a 4-year degree. If you don't, you're nothing. So what is it like? It's kind of changed now. So
Yeah, it
what
has.
was your
And
advice?
I'm gonna use I've written about this before, but I'm gonna talk about our oldest son. Connor, I'm talking about you. And he's okay with it, but he's our son that works at Performance Food Group. He quit college in his senior year of college and was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just hate this. I don't want to go to school. I don't want the loans. I don't want the anything. And he was seriously afraid that we'd be mad
Yeah.
because, everybody's degreed in the household or whatever, or doing their thing. He felt less than. I'm like, listen, you're a great human. No, there's no less than. There's, everything about you that's amazing. And I think as people, we need those reminders, especially as milestones and graduating and everything like that. Remember, those kids are tired.
Yeah.
Those kids are tired. The last thing they need is pressure on them to, okay, you're 2 weeks out of graduating. Where's your job?
Right.
We did all of this so you would have a job by now, or whatever it is. There's so much pressure to perform and follow, my expected timeline of you. And it feels like there's a huge lack of respect for the individual being the individual that they are, no matter what age they are. When you have a 12-year-old and they're not the best in school, maybe they are the best drummer. Maybe they
Yeah.
are the best clarinet player. Maybe they are the best singer. Maybe something about them doesn't fit into the box that we've got structurally for them to fit in. And so that space and grace with your kids to really recognize that and understand that, success isn't every dollar that you put in your bank account or every accolade or every award you win or every game you win or anything like that, but it's more of a broader definition of what actually is working for you and what makes you go from here to here to here.
I love that. So touching your head, so
Head,
head, heart, and then
heart,
giving yourself a
hug.
hug.
Head, heart,
Oh,
hug
I
all
love
day
it.
long.
I
Yeah.
love that.
But yeah, my advice on milestones is to, less is more on those events, that congratulatory compassion, and less is more, minus the expectations and so forth. I wrote, even as an author, I'm what they call a best-selling author, right? Okay, yeah. Well, you tell me what that means, because I don't think we're paying my house payment on what I make as an author, right? So I'm gonna hold the book up. I wrote this book on that exact thing. That's why this book exists, because I was
The
sitting there going,
success
nobody,
guidebook.
yeah, the success guidebook. I'm sitting there going, nobody feels like they're enough, no matter what they
Yeah.
do, no matter what accolade they have. I'm sitting here whining that I haven't sold this many books or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, it's an epidemic. It's like another
Yeah.
epidemic coming on. And so I think that that's really important to tell people, like at a graduation milestone or whatever, just, congratulations. And then, maybe ask a question. Yeah, yeah. How was school for you?
Yeah.
Instead of like,
What's
time's
next?
ticking. Yeah. Time's ticking. I
Yeah.
know you're walking across the stage, but have you got a job yet?
Yeah.
And the kids, they feel that pressure to like say that, like, I've been to 85 job fairs and I've got 4 offers lined up, and don't you worry, I got my student loans and all this stuff. And it's like
Mm.
there's that financial pressure and that peer pressure and that personal pressure that comes on board. But this book flips that completely over. It's like, no, 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 no. We are going to, as human beings, align our heart, truths, and energy, because success isn't just in one area of our life, it's comprehensively in all areas of our life. At a certain point, you can see that life is so much more complex than what your job is, how much money you earn, whatever. It's all about love. It's all about compassion. It's just all about those things. And it's about not waiting for the perfect age to have your those emotional conversations.
Yeah.
Find little bits and pieces so that your human beings are raised with it.
Oh man,
Mhm.
I really want to do this word of the month with my kids now, so we can really dive deep into those. I remember, okay, confession. I used Chat GPT like 2 Thanksgivings ago, and I was like, explain gratitude to a 2-year-old, and
Did
it
it?
actually
It
does.
did.
Like it
Yeah,
actually
It's
yeah.
really
like gave
good.
That's
a
awesome.
really nice way that they could like understand. And I don't remember what it was now, but yeah, you like I definitely used GPT to
That's
explain to
awesome.
my kids those like complex emotions and complex feelings to kind of bring it down to their level.
Adults don't even understand it sometimes,
Yeah.
like it's hard for me to define it myself.
Well, just to wrap up, I have how can our community best support you right now? I know you've got the Change Guidebook, the Success Guidebook, Best Ever You. What's sort of one thing that you think our community could really support you with right now?
So that's so cool, because usually I'm not used to talking about what I need ever.
Moms need stuff too.
Yeah.
We all
I would love to see communities help the Change Guidebook be way more popular than it is. This would be so cool if this message, and I don't mean me, or I don't need to be the center of attention or anything like that, but the message in the Change Guidebook, how to navigate change when things come up, I think is such a message that everybody needs. And it's like another tool for your toolbox. I'm seeing it become more and more popular with high school and college age kids too. They're like, oh, this
Good.
thing we call change. I'm experiencing a really big one going from high school to college, or college into the real world. And so I'm seeing it used like that. I'm seeing it used with relationships, with divorces, with, just see tons of applications for that book widely from any age group. Yeah.
If anybody has a graduate in your life, you should give them the Change Guidebook, because high school graduation, college graduation, whatever it is, that's a huge change. And they're at the age too where they're probably more open and receptive to reading something like this too. I think that'd be a really great gift idea.
Yeah, that's this book,
Change
the Change
Guidebook.
Good.
Well, Elizabeth, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here, chatting with us. This is a fabulous Mother's Day episode. It makes me feel good just knowing that, we're all learning, and nobody's going to be perfect, and nobody's going to, you shouldn't put so much pressure on yourself as well too. Space and grace. I'm going to keep saying that to myself for a while now too, but be sure to check out Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino. All of the links are in the show notes. And Elizabeth, thank you so much. This was really a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, and happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Happy Mother's Day.
Okay, Heidi, how do you feel as a mom now?
Good, actually. I feel a little bit better knowing that,
Good.
We don't need to have all the answers. We don't need to get it right, as long as, we show up with intention. I kind of liked that. I am raising my kids with the intention that they will have compassion, that they will be aware of other people's feelings and aware of their own feelings. That's how I want to raise my kids.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, they have so many feelings, and just making sure they're aware of it. Well, like when she was talking about the word of the month, I really like that. I know, Heidi, you love that.
I love
too.
it. I'm definitely stealing that right now.
Yeah. We don't do anything like that, but we talk about our emotions in this fun game that the kids actually created as an art project. They painted rocks all different colors, and there's like a sparkly green one, there's a red sparkly one, a yellow, lime green, all different colors. And each one corresponds to a different emotion. And what we do is we pass the box around, and everybody takes out all of the feelings they were feeling throughout the day. So for example, in the morning, I was really angry, and then I was really excited, and then I was tired, and then all of these different emotions, because you're not one thing throughout the day. Like, oh, today was good. Today was sad.
Yeah.
No, today had multiple different feelings. So they really like taking out the rocks and showing, I had all these emotions today. Of course, I can't take credit for that. Thank you, therapist Rebecca, for that art
Shout
tip,
out.
but but it was really fun. And I also love how the kids kind of corresponded the colors to, what is it? That movie
Inside Out.
Inside Out.
It's the best movie ever.
Out.
Also, my husband Kent will cry at the part where Bing Bong sacrifices himself. Like, he bawls every time. I think it's so funny.
Bing Bong.
Go to the moon.
love that.
Okay, guys.
Wait, I'm not prepared for this.
Go watch Inside Out if you want to cry today.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
It
for
is good.
all ages.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely want to do that rock thing now too. I think I'm going to need to do that as a project, because my problem with my kids, we would try to say what high or low did you have today? And
yeah.
my kids are just over it. They don't like it anymore. And so my son will always be like, I got nothing. He'll just literally be like, I did nothing. So maybe having colored rocks, that would help. But also just modeling space and grace. I think that was a really important point that Elizabeth said for you and for the kids. I really think it's important to, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about in general too, like bolstering your own self-worth so you can trust yourself, but realizing that doing that, it doesn't just help you, but it really does have a ripple effect. Everybody's watching you, especially the younger kids, like the, next generations. They really watch their parents and see how do they take care of themselves? How do they handle situations? And I think this can be super intimidating, or at least it was for me for a really long time, being like, okay, I have to stay calm, cool, and collected all the time so that they don't blow their gasket. But sorry, fuck that. That's impossible. It's so impossible. But just knowing that, I may have a moment. I may need to go scream in a pillow, but then I come back and I collect myself and I'm kind of like, you know what? Mommy just needed a minute. It has nothing to do with you. And sometimes it's hard for me to deal with my emotions too. And that's okay. It's hard for you to do it. It's hard for me to do it. And just, it never goes away. Right? Like it doesn't ever go away. That kid feeling, that the feeling that you have as a kid where you have so much emotion that you just like have like rage or just like sadness or all that, it doesn't go away. We still feel that, but I feel like we don't allow ourselves to feel it as much anymore. So I don't know. I really liked Space and Grace.
Well, and also I think we probably have so much pressure on us just to always be there for our kids. Like if you say, hey, mom needs a minute, I need to go to the closet. You also feel guilty, like, oh no, I should be there making them feel better, or I should always be with them and maybe starting a new art project. And I'm just
thanks a lot for that one.
Yeah. Okay. Limited art projects. Got it. It's not always art projects 24/7. But honestly, if you need to take a minute, don't feel guilty for going upstairs and eating a cookie and crying.
I think our current battle right now is bedtime, and it's really hard because each kid is so different. Like I only have 2 kids. Like I can't even imagine having 4, but both my kids are so different and their needs are so vastly different that, my daughter Margot needs me or a single parent in there all the time until she falls asleep, basically. Whereas my son, Stanley, he doesn't really need that. And so sometimes I feel guilty being like, I'm just like tucking Stanley in really quickly and saying goodnight and then going and hanging out with Margot for like 20 minutes. And that makes me feel guilty. But just realizing that they're their own human also. And I think that, I don't know, that Space and Grace is just kind of playing in my head of like, it's okay. He's okay. He still feels loved. And I give him attention in other ways too. But at the time when Margot needs that, I'm there for her.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is everything makes you feel guilty as a parent.
Literally
it
everything.
Matter.
Anything and everything. Parenting is hard. This is why we're not hard. A parenting podcast.
Thank God.
Yeah, no. Hard pass. I will listen to parenting podcasts, but I will not become one.
No. Well, what I really liked from Elizabeth, my big takeaway was when she's talking about, give them permission to find their own version of success, even if it's different from yours. 100%. And this one is so huge for me. I mean, I always wanted to make my parents proud. And so I clung on to that so hard that I stuck with my career choice and didn't give up. And I don't want to put that kind of pressure on my kids. I want them to know that it's okay to discover new things. It's also okay to change your mind. Actually, it's fucking great. Good. Now you realize what you don't like. What do you do? What do you like?
Yeah. No, I feel that because I mean, this is another form of mom guilt though too, but when they start like dance, your kids did dance too.
They did briefly.
My daughter, so Margot wanted to do dance and we went to dance, and after like week 2, cause you have to buy it in like a 6-week chunk. And after week 2, she's like, I don't want to go anymore. And I may have been like, let's go at least 2 more times. Get my money's worth. I hate that though. I don't want to do that, but it is like a thing that kind of is in the back of my mind where I'm just like, I want you to change and try all these things, but also like maybe don't give up on the second day. If I paid for it.
But that's not putting your dreams and hopes and everything on them. That's just you saying, damn, there goes my paycheck.
I know that I don't have anymore.
Yeah. Oh, wait, right. What paycheck? Oh, never mind. Next episode.
Right. No, I think it's still good though, because, you know, they take breaks, they switch up, they try new things. And I think that's almost the most beautiful thing about parenting is you don't know what they're going to become. And it's so exciting. Like, I even said to my husband the other day, I'm like, I can't wait to see how this unfolds. And just like talking about their personalities in general, of how they're so vastly different and how I can't quite figure either of them out yet. But I'm just like, I'm really excited to see where this leads.
Well, and you'll never figure them out, right? They could be 40 and changing.
Well, because
their
they don't know themselves. We don't know ourselves.
We don't. We're still figuring it out.
We're learning right now.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so that ties into the other thing I really, really like about what Elizabeth said, that there's no perfect age to start this, because honestly, before she said that, I was thinking, well, shit, I missed the boat.
Oh, yeah, the boat left long ago.
Oh, my God.
The boat is halfway across the
kids.
Country right now.
Well, yeah. And so it's never too late and it's never too early. Like these lessons, I don't think they have to be, proper lessons, right? They can just be a moment of mom showing her true self, mom honoring her boundaries, honoring her thoughts, and following through on it so that the kids can see that and mirror it. It doesn't have to be, now, kids, let me tell you about what goes on in my head when I'm making these decisions, because you need to learn this.
Not gonna lie, I am guilty of trying to have like these very important conversations because I have like a good idea and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna explain it to them like this and they're gonna get it. And it's like I'm talking to a brick wall, especially with Stanley, because his like ADD is so bad. And I'm just like, did you get it? And then I'm like, do you know what I said? He's like, no. It's sad.
But that's good. You're trying. At least you expressed it out loud, and whether or not they followed or were even paying attention, they heard you talking it out. And maybe it's like, to them, it's like, mom's talking to herself out loud, and this is how she processes.
Sure. Yeah, let's go with that. I like to pretend that I like to pretend that it's just landing in his subconscious, and like he doesn't have any idea what I'm saying right now, but like his subconscious gets it. And one day it'll come out.
Well, obviously we are certainly not experts in child rearing, I would say, but
no.
But I think, again, that's why we are not a child podcast. Or, oh my God.
We aren't a child podcast either. There's a few too many F-bombs. Rated PG-13.
What is wrong with me today?
R? 18? I don't know. How many F-bombs consider it R? I think we're rated R.
Just one. Just one.
Isn't it 2? Because you can have it on Disney Plus.
No way. What?
Yeah. So that's why this is a
you
very,
can
very
one
side note.
F-bomb in?
No, you can do up to 2, because that's why when Hamilton went on Disney Plus, they had to take out the third F-bomb because there are 3 F-bombs in Hamilton, and they could have the first 2, but they couldn't have the 3 on Disney.
Wow.
The more you know.
I'm learning new things every day.
You're welcome.
Okay, what I meant to say was we are not a child rearing parenting podcast, but
we are not.
We have always wanted to be a podcast that's about building confidence in ourselves as women. And if you are a mom, an auntie, a teacher, even just a caregiver or a neighbor that has children around you, I feel like this is a great chance to create that generational ripple effect. So you're boosting your self-worth, and this can help boost your kids. They see that, they mirror it. They can be just as amazing and maybe even more amazing than we are. That's our hope and our dream, right?
Yeah. But without the pressure to be more amazing than us.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Cut that.
No. It's still beautiful. I think that they will eventually be more amazing than us. But we're setting the bar pretty damn high, let's just say.
High five.
Anyways. So come join our community on Substack so we can continue this much needed conversation. And happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Happy Mother's Day.
Go have a break. Buy yourself, get a cookie, go to the closet. We love you.
And until next time, it's your move, sis.
Make it count. Bye.
Bye.